For my place-based lesson plan, I am doing third grade community, and I will be integrating English language arts into the social studies lesson. The first standard that I chose was to observe, explore, and compare human and physical characteristics in a certain place and community. And then my ELA standard is to write informative and explanatory text to examine a topic and convey ideas and information clearly. Um, the reason that I chose these is because we'll be talking about community, and since we live in Manhattan, we will be taking a field trip to the Manhattan Mercury newspaper, where students will be learning about kind of what a newspaper is, what an article is, why there are so many different sections in a newspaper, and how it is important that this represents our community and kind of gives a general overview of what's going on in our community throughout the year. While we're on the field trip, some questions that I'll be wanting students to think about just kind of while we're there to discuss when we get back to the school are: why is it important to stay up to date on what is going on in our community? Why do you think the newspaper has so many sections? What is an article? And what would you write about if you worked for a newspaper? And then the next day when we come back to school during actually for the next 2 days during the ELA time, students will be writing their own newspaper articles, and we'll kind of be creating a classroom newspaper just to give students that idea that their classroom is also a community and not just the place that they live is their community, but that each person in the class is different and is going to have different interests and backgrounds, different families, and it is important to learn about all of that, and so that we can see the diversity in our classroom. So I'll give students 2 days to work on this. On the first day, I kind of just want them to brainstorm, write a rough draft, just be thinking about what they're going to want to include. I would like for them to write at least 3 paragraphs, each paragraph containing 4 to 5 sentences. They'll include their name, where they're born, about their family, some of their favorite things such as food, colors, games, sports, things like that, hobbies, and fun facts about themselves. So I kind of just wanted to give them this prompts a little bit. That way they are not completely starting from scratch, but they're welcome to include other things outside of that if they would like to. So they'll write that rough draft just on a sheet of notebook paper, and then I will give them kind of like a nicer template paper for their final copy, which I will then laminate and turn into a classroom newspaper for them to look at, for parents to see when they come for conferences or for open houses or things like that, just to have in the classroom. So throughout the rubric, I have 2 criteria. First is the field trip. Mastery level would be that students are engaged throughout the trip and had good behavior and met those expectations that will be set before we go. And then the article is my second criteria, and mastery level would be that the student's article was at least 3 paragraphs long, could be longer if they like. I would really like them to limit it to 1 page. That way it goes well into the newspaper, and contained the criteria that I gave them or more. So I'm kind of looking for a student that really gave me good detail and went above and beyond and made this their own throughout. I think that this lesson is super important for students to be doing, because I really, really do want them to see that their school and their classroom is also part of their community, not just, where their house is, what town they live in, that kind of thing. And so I'm hoping that this will really build that and emphasize that for students. My objectives are that by the end of the lesson, students will be able to express the importance of community in the school and outside of the school. And then by the end of the lesson, students will be able to write an autobiography article about themselves. My assessment will just kind of be of the article. Did they meet the criteria that I had for them? So just them turning that in, and that it may not be for a grade, but I'm kind of just looking to see did you meet those expectations that I set? In accommodations, I have an ELL student in my classroom and she does not speak any English, and so I was thinking that she could write her article in Spanish, and that one, as well as an English translation, would be included in the newspaper just to kind of show that diversity, have her culture in there, and her represented in a way that is authentic for her. If a student would like to, they can write or type their article instead of writing it by hand. I know some students have difficulty writing for that long amount of times. And then if a student would like to sit somewhere other than their desk, use a clipboard and sit on the floor, that is absolutely fine as long as they are staying on task.